All right, let's talk about the cloud. We hear about it all the time, we use it every single day for our photos, our emails, our work, but what is it really? Today, we're going to peel back the layers on this technology that pretty much runs the modern world and find out what's actually going on. So let's start with a really basic question that I'm sure you've wondered about. You're on Google Drive or iCloud, you hit save, and poof, the file disappears from your computer. You just trust that it's safe somewhere out there. But where is somewhere?
The easiest way to wrap your head around the cloud is with a simple analogy. Imagine you need a super powerful computer. Instead of going out, buying all the crazy expensive parts, and then having to build and maintain it yourself, you just rent one. That's the cloud in a nutshell. You're just renting computing power, storage, and all sorts of services from someone else over the internet.
Okay, but not just any online service gets to call itself the cloud. For it to be the real deal, it has to follow 5 essential rules. It's got to be on demand, so you can get what you need right now, no phone calls needed. It has to have what's called rapid elasticity, which is a fancy way of saying it can scale up from 1 user to 1 million, like instantly. And this is the big one. It has to be a measured service. You only pay for what you actually use, kind of like your electricity bill.
And this brings us right back to our first question. Where does your data go? Well, that virtual cloud isn't just floating around in the air. It actually has a physical home. It's a global network of these massive, super secure buildings called data centers, dotted all over the planet. Real buildings with rows and rows of real servers running 24/7, making sure your stuff is safe. What's funny? The cloud feels so new, but the basic idea actually goes way back to the 1960s with a concept called time-sharing on old mainframe computers. But the real revolution, the thing that changed everything, kicked off in 2006 when Amazon launched AWS. Then Microsoft jumped in with Azure in 2010. And this wasn't just another product launch. Now, this was a game changer. It basically made massive computing power available to anyone.
All right, so you're sold, you want to rent from the cloud. But what are you actually getting? It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Let's have a look at the menu. And you know what? The absolute easiest way to get this is the pizza as a service model. Seriously. With IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, you get the raw ingredients, the kitchen, the oven, the dough. You have total control to make the pizza however you want. Then there's PaaS, platform as a service, which gives you a head start. And finally, you have SaaS, software as a service. Think Gmail or Office 365. With SaaS, the pizza is just delivered to your door fully cooked. You don't have to do anything but eat it. So you've picked your type of pizza. Now you've got to decide, where are you going to eat it? I mean, where is all this digital stuff of yours actually going to live? And this leads to another really fundamental choice.
So basically, you've got 2 main choices. You can go with the public cloud. Think of this like living in a big apartment building. You're sharing the building, the resources, it's really efficient, and it saves you money. Or you could go with the private cloud. This is like owning your own house. You get way more control, more privacy, but it's also a lot more responsibility, and yeah, it costs more. But here's the thing, it's not always a black and white decision. A lot of companies are now choosing a third way, the hybrid cloud. It's exactly what it sounds like. It mixes the public and private clouds together, so you get the best of both worlds. You can use that huge, scalable public cloud for most things, but keep your really sensitive stuff tucked away in your private cloud, and they both work together.
Okay, so you've got all these options. IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, public, private, hybrid. So what's the big deal? Why is basically everyone, from a tiny startup to a massive global corporation, jumping on the cloud bandwagon? Well, the reasons are absolutely huge. For businesses, it completely flips the script on how you pay for technology. Instead of a massive upfront cost for hardware, it becomes a flexible monthly expense. But the real magic, the strategic advantage, is speed and innovation. It gives any company on the planet immediate access to incredibly powerful tools like AI and data analytics, stuff that used to be only for the tech giants. But, and this is a really big but, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Moving to the cloud comes with some pretty serious challenges, and if you're not prepared, they can totally catch you by surprise. And if you ask people what the #1 headache is, a lot of the time it just comes down to one thing, the bill. That awesome promise of only paying for what you use? Well, it turns out that can be a real double-edged sword. And this isn't just a feeling. Get this. A recent Gartner survey found that a whopping 69% of IT leaders blew past their cloud budget last year. That's nearly 7 out of every 10 companies paying more than they plan to. And we're not talking about a few extra bucks here and there. On average, companies are overspending by 15%. So the takeaway here is crystal clear. If you don't watch it like a hawk, if you don't have really strict management, those costs can get out of hand fast.
And look, the problems don't stop with your wallet. Companies face other serious issues, like vendor lock-in. That's where you get so tangled up in one company's services that leaving would be a total nightmare. And you have to deal with these incredibly complex service agreements that, surprise, surprise, often don't cover every little thing that could go wrong.
Okay, let's talk security. This is always a big one. But you might be surprised where the biggest dangers are actually coming from. According to the Cloud Security Alliance, the #1 threat isn't some mastermind hacker in a dark room. Nope, it's insecure interfaces and APIs, the digital doors and windows that companies build themselves. That's followed by good old-fashioned data loss and even just simple hardware failures. So, where does that leave us? The cloud is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful, transformative tools we have today. It offers incredible speed and power, but you have to understand the trade-offs, the hidden costs, the tricky complexities, and the very real risks. You have to ask yourself, for what you need, do you see clear skies ahead, or is there a storm gathering on the horizon?